I heard her begging for help. Security guard breaks silence on Bai Lu's last night. The silence around Bai Lu's terrifying final night at the private rehabilitation facility in northern Beijing has finally shattered. One man has come forward, trembling, pale, and with eyes that seem to have aged decades in days. He was the only one on duty that night. The man at the door. The man who now says he heard her. And what he describes has thrown the entire industry into a frenzy of questions, regrets, and unbearable speculation. Liang Jun, a security guard contracted by the private hospital where Bai Lu was undergoing quiet treatment, has stayed silent for months. His contract had strict non-disclosure clauses. But earlier this week, after repeated calls from journalists and growing pressure from public opinion, he finally agreed to speak. In a dimly lit interview room, with his hands shaking around a disposable cup of green tea, he said only one thing before the cameras started rolling. I didn't want to hear what I heard. I didn't want to be the one standing on the other side of that door. His shift began as usual. Midnight check-ins. Camera sweeps. Room passcodes. At exactly 1:47 a.m., he passed by Bai Lu's hallway for the final time that night. And that's when it began. I thought I was imagining it. A whisper at first. Then it turned into this pleading. Like someone was running out of time. The most haunting part of Liang Jun's testimony isn't what he saw, but what he heard. He insists he recognized Bai Lu's voice immediately. He'd seen her dozens of times during prior check-ins, even once held the elevator door for her as she returned from a restricted physiotherapy session. It was her voice. I swear on everything, she was crying, not screaming. It was like someone who'd been trying to be brave for too long and finally broke. She kept saying please don't and I can't breathe and then, silence. What followed was a thud. Then nothing. The building's lights flickered briefly. Cameras later reviewed by investigators confirmed the moment the hallway dimmed. But her room? That footage had mysteriously gone black for over 7 minutes, a glitch the hospital still refuses to explain. By 2:11 a.m., Bai Lu had been moved to the facility's emergency care ward. Records show Zhong Linghe received a call from an unknown number at 2:17 a.m. He was shooting in Chengdu when he reportedly threw his phone and collapsed on set. No one could calm him. No one could understand what he kept repeating under his breath. Tell her I'm sorry. I should have been there. I should have never let her go in alone. At 3:05 a.m., he was on a private flight back to Beijing. But by the time he arrived at the facility's cold, steel entrance hours later, it was already too late. A stretcher was being wheeled out. Her face was covered. In the days following Liang Jun's confession, netizens began digging. And what they discovered has made headlines across the nation. This wasn't the first incident tied to the so-called quiet rehab mansion. Whispers of missing audio files, erased visitor logs, and unexplained medical transfers now flood every social media thread connected to Bai Lu's name. Several insiders have anonymously confirmed that Bai Lu had filed at least 3 formal complaints during her stay. One even mentioned she feared one of the night staff, a man who never knocked and kept locking the door from the outside. None of her reports were ever acted on. And now, Liang Jun's words have turned from haunting to horrifying. I think she knew something would happen that night. Her room lights stayed on all day. She didn't come out for dinner. And before the crying started, there was laughter. Male laughter. Low and close. Just days before Bai Lu's final night, a nurse who frequently attended to her, Xia Qian, abruptly resigned. Her resignation letter was 1 sentence long. I can no longer protect the patients here. Attempts to contact Xia have failed. Her number is disconnected. Her apartment was vacated. Her name has vanished from the hospital records. Insiders claim she had been close to Bai Lu, often staying longer during her sessions and slipping handwritten notes into her meal trays. The last note, never confirmed but rumored to exist, read, "Do not let him in again. Lock the window. I'll try to stall him." If this is true, who was he? On the 3rd day after her passing, Zhong Linghe emerged in public for the first time. Disheveled. Speechless. He was spotted sitting on the pavement outside the hospital's north gate, the same gate where Bai Lu was reportedly wheeled out in the early hours. He stayed for nearly 5 hours. Witnesses say he was holding a letter. I found it in her things, he whispered to one journalist before security pushed them away. No one knows what was written in that letter. But sources close to Jong confirm he's cancelled all work indefinitely. His team has issued no official statement, only a 3-word message on his social media page. I failed her. Fans across China have erupted in protest. The hashtag #JusticeForBailu has surpassed 9.8 million mentions in 48 hours. Outside the facility, mourners have gathered with candles, banners, and handwritten notes begging for the truth. Photos of a small red scarf, believed to have belonged to Bailu, left tied to the fence have gone viral. One fan wrote, "We let her down. She was suffering and we were laughing at rumors." Another posted, "This wasn't an accident. This was silence turned fatal." As the interview with Liang Jun drew to a close, he took a long pause. His hands were visibly trembling now. The room had grown eerily quiet. I asked myself every night since, what if I had knocked? What if I had opened that door? His voice cracked. But I was told never to interfere. And now, I hear her crying every time I close my eyes. As investigations continue and public outcry grows louder, one thing has become crystal clear: Bailu was not just another actress. She was a fighter. A woman with secrets too heavy to carry alone. And someone who, on her final night, begged for help while the world slept. Now, no one's sleeping. Not until the full truth comes out. Not until justice is done. Not until he answers for whatever happened behind that locked door. Liang Jun's interview exploded across every corner of the internet within hours. Celebrities reposted it in stunned silence. Journalists dissected every pause in his voice. But behind the scenes, far from the hashtags and headlines, one man sat with his hands clenched around a folded piece of paper, the letter. Zhong Linghe hadn't spoken publicly since Bailu's death. Not once. His team shielded him from press. His family avoided any mention of her name. But inside the quiet of his dim apartment, where her pillow still sat untouched, he read her final words again and again. "You once said I'm not made of glass. But what if I am, Linghe? And what if I'm already cracked?" He wiped his face. The words blurred with tears. He hadn't been there. He hadn't answered her last call. The letter had been hidden beneath her bed, wrapped inside a sketchbook she used during therapy. The pages were filled with images, small dark windows, broken clocks, faceless figures in lab coats. And one repeated symbol, a key. She drew it over and over. Sometimes in trembling pencil strokes, sometimes violently scratched in pen until it bled through the page. A key, or maybe, a plea. By midnight the next day, Zhong Linghe stood outside the facility. Not in disguise. Not under security. Just him and her memory. The reporters swarmed, but he ignored them. His eyes were fixed on the second floor. Her room. The same window she'd once leaned out of to wave at him after a rare supervised visit. The same window she hadn't left for 4 days before her death. Inside, the board of directors had already been warned, he's here. They tried to stall him. Block the entrance. But the cameras were already rolling. Zhong walked in without a word. The receptionists froze. Patients watched silently as he passed. He carried only one thing, the sketchbook. "Where is Dr. Wei?" he asked. No one answered. "Where is he?" he shouted. That name hadn't been mentioned before. Dr. Wei, the night psychologist. Rarely seen. Not on the hospital's main site. No LinkedIn. No profile photo. But in Bailu's notes, his name appeared in shaky scrawl. He said, "I won't need a phone anymore. He said my silence helps the treatment." Security attempted to stop Zhong, but his voice rose again, not in anger, but desperation. "She told you." She reported him. "And you erased it." He opened the sketchbook to the page with the red-inked key. "She was terrified. And none of you did a damn thing." A nurse, younger than the rest, stepped forward. Her eyes filled with regret. "She left me a voice recording, but I was too afraid to send it. They told us she was unstable. That she was fabricating stories." "Play it," Zhong whispered. The nurse took out her phone and with trembling fingers pressed play. Static. Then a soft gasp. Xia Qian, I think he's going to come in tonight. He said if I don't submit, he'll make sure I get moved somewhere worse. Please, if anything happens, tell Linghe I didn't imagine it. I know what I saw. Don't let them cover this up. Silence. Then muffled sobs. Zhong turned, tears streaking down his face. She begged. And you muted her. Outside, the crowd had grown into hundreds. Candlelight glimmered like stars around the gate. Banners fluttered in the wind. And just beyond the crowd, hidden behind a tinted car window, Liang Jun watched. He hadn't slept in 48 hours. Guilt clung to his skin like oil. He saw Zhong on the building steps, holding the sketchbook high as cameras flashed. She wasn't delusional, Zhong said. She wasn't broken. You broke her. Journalists screamed questions, desperate for names. Who's the man in the red coat? One asked. Zhong flinched. He hadn't told anyone about that detail. But Bai Lu had drawn him page after page, a tall figure in a long red coat, always standing outside her door. No face. Just darkness. That night, Liang Jun stepped forward from the shadows and raised his hand. I saw him. Reporters turned. I saw the red coat. He always arrived after 1 a.m. Never checked in. Never logged. He would knock, once. And then the hallway lights would flicker. Why didn't you speak sooner? Someone yelled. Liang looked down. Because I was told I'd end up just like her. The crowd gasped. In that moment, the story transformed. No longer just a tragedy. No longer just a case of silence. It became a full-blown scandal. A facility once hailed as the safest in the industry now bore the weight of a cover-up, of negligence, of something far darker. But Zhong Linghe didn't care about the headlines. He walked past the press, past the flashbulbs, and sat at the gate where she had once been wheeled out, unseen, unmourned. He placed her sketchbook on his lap, opened to the last page. It read only. Linghe, if you find this, don't be afraid to be loud for me. Be louder than my silence. He sat there for hours. Until the wind picked up and the crowd began to chant. Loud for her. Loud for Bai Lu. Loud for the truth. And somewhere in that crowd, a small girl no older than 10 placed a single paper key at the foot of the gate. For the first time in weeks, Zhong smiled. This wasn't over.